Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today's video will be focused on how to choose a law school. So I chose my law school in 2017. I started applying in 2016. I'm from California, so I applied to certain schools in the Bay Area, but I was thinking about leaving the state altogether, so I applied to all over the place. I applied in Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, I believe New York as well. So this is going to be based on my experiences. So if you are applying to law school or thinking about it for the near future, this video could definitely help you. So let's get right into it. So the first very obvious thing to consider is the location, but this could play a part in very different ways. For one, you might want to consider whether this place is going to be close to home or further away. Law school is very expensive, so you might want to think about leaving at home if need be to save money. And it will save money on food as well, obviously living expenses, the place itself, rent, what have you. So that might be something to consider. On another hand, maybe leaving home would be a better idea because then you could always room with another law student and you guys will have similar schedules and so forth. So it might be a study buddy type of thing. So it might be advantageous for you to be further away from home. Another thing to consider about leaving home is a different experience. So this is something that came to hand when I was applying to school, was something different. I love the Bay Area, I love being at home, I love California, but I wanted to experience something different, so this was my opportunity to. I went to UC Davis, which was about an hour and a half away from home, so I got to experience life that was very different than the Bay Area. Wasn't very fond of it, but I wanted to try something completely different, so I decided to move across country. I went to North Carolina, did not have any family there, did not have any friends there, so it was a fresh new start after all. Another thing to consider about location is that this is law school, so it's very important that you do not go to a place where you feel like you might always be hanging out and not actually focusing on law school. Law school is very rigorous, so it is important that you focus. So you don't want to have go to school that's like right next to the beach and you're going to be at the beach all day instead of going to class. Your law school dreams will definitely come to an end sooner than later unless you do have very strong willpower. But considering that it is law school, maybe you'll be doing anything you can to get away from it and try to succeed at law school at the same time. But you definitely do not want to get kicked out. So the next thing I wanted to mention about location is the law school itself. So you might not want to study at law school. Maybe you'll feel very dry and dead studying at law school, especially in the library. Our library was underground, so there was no windows. Maybe your experience will be very different. It probably will be, but maybe you'll want to escape from law school from time to time and study somewhere else. So it'll be very important to see what other places are near law school that maybe you could go to for a break, maybe to study, maybe to eat, maybe like Starbucks, maybe a nice coffee place nearby. So stuff like that comes into play, especially if breaks are short in between classes. Sometimes we had like 30-minute breaks in between classes, sometimes we didn't. We had an hour or so for lunch, so things like that. Maybe you don't want to go completely out of your way, so the law school's location is very important in terms of what's around it. So the last point I want to make is your apartment. So it might be a good idea to have an apartment that is very close to where your law school is at. So this kind of goes back to the location type idea. My law school is downtown in the city, so apartments near the law school were very expensive. I think they were about $1,000 a room. Not really that expensive by California standards, but it was expensive, or very expensive in North Carolina standards. All of which was because it was downtown, so everything was kind of in the area, so the apartments were more expensive. So it is very important to look at location. In terms of the law school and your apartment, maybe you could find something closer so you don't have to hassle all the time. It might be very rough to get up in the morning knowing that you're going to law school and the day might hit you. So Location of your apartment is also going to be important. So this is going to end up being based on where your law school actually is and whether you could find an apartment that's affordable in the area. The second thing you want to consider, and this might actually be the most important thing on this list, is rank. So what happens is a lot of places, a lot of employers, when you're looking for internships, especially internships, but also lawyer jobs as well, a lot of places that are higher tier, if you will, look for students that go to top schools, top 10, top 25, maybe top 50, maybe top 100, but I don't think I've ever seen them push it that far. And so they look for top students at top schools. So obviously your GPA comes into hand and being a top student, but even if you are a great student, you might be held back if you don't go to a high ranked school. So rank is very important if you want a lucrative career in a certain area. This holds true for working with judges. This holds true for corporate spots. I want to be a corporate lawyer, so there were many opportunities. Some of the best opportunities, like working for Apple and I believe Sony and stuff like that. There were a lot of corporations in the Bay, like tech companies. So there were a lot of opportunities. The best ones, seemingly, or the best ones in my eyes at least, appeared to always look for top-ranked students at top-ranked schools. So it was very important to go to a top-ranked school. The third thing to consider is scholarships. Law school is very expensive, as you would imagine, and that is true for tuition, gas, rents, living expenses, everything. It definitely does add up. So looking at scholarships is very important. My decision was fairly based on scholarships. I got a scholarship for $90,000. I'm not gonna say what school was giving it to me, but I decided to pass on it because school was in California, so tuition was on average $50K or more. So the scholarship did play a role, generally speaking, but for me personally, it did not play as big as a role as it might to other people. So you should definitely take into consideration scholarships and how much tuition will be, because tuition outside of California is generally a lot lower than California tuition rates. So at the end of the day, my $90K scholarship basically was not worth as much because my tuition, even with the scholarship, was only maybe a few $100s lower than what it was to go to another school with only a $30K scholarship, which is exactly what happened to me. Another thing you might want to consider is the pace. So different schools might have different paces. Generally speaking, law school is 3 years, but there might be programs at a school where you will get to graduate earlier. Maybe there will be a built-in program where you get your master's at the same time as the JD and stuff like that. So the law school I went to, I believe at that time, it was the only law school in the nation that had a program which was like 2.5 years, but in reality it was about two years and maybe like 2 or 3 months. Pace was very important to me. I graduated from UC Davis in 3 years. I graduated from high school in 2014 and then graduated from college at 2017. So pace was very important. I wanted to graduate fast. I like doing things at a faster pace. So law school, even though it was rigorous, I was glad that I went to school with a faster pace and it worked out well. So this goes back to my earlier point about rank in school and GPA, being a top student, stuff like that. So there are jobs out there, many of which might ask you for your transcript when you apply. The same thing holds true for internships. There were certain internships that wanted you to have a writing sample as well as your transcript. So some of them even ask for college transcripts. So transcripts are very important, grades are very important. So you might want to look at difficulty and look at ratings maybe to see how difficult these schools are. Generally speaking, as you go higher ranked, maybe they're becoming more difficult, but law school in general is difficult either way. So it might be a good idea to look into difficulty. Like I said, law school is difficult in general, but maybe there will be other factors that will help you do better. Maybe smaller classes might be better for you. Maybe Certain schools have tutoring programs, or maybe they have other like students like 3Ls helping 1Ls or what have you. Maybe they have better counselors, stuff like that. So you want to see where you will like succeed, because it's very important not only to make it to graduation day, but bring your good GPA with you for future opportunities. So the next thing that I want to focus on is diversity. So law school, it seems like law schools generally aren't very diverse, but for you it might be important to go to a school that is more diverse than others. Maybe the area itself being diverse than others might be important as well. So that's something to consider. I actually looked at the city my school was in's demographics to see the breakup by race and religion and stuff like that. I wanted to go to a diverse place. It wasn't the most diverse place ever, especially considering I was leaving California, where it is very diverse, but it worked out well enough for me not to be bothered by the lack of diversity. But it might be more important to others to be in a place that is diverse, or maybe it's not as diverse. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. Application fees are also important. From what I recall, law school application fees are more expensive than college application fees, so you might want to be very picky in what you choose to apply to, because application fees can add up, and from what I recall, they are always not the same price for each school. So that's definitely something else to take into consideration. But that is pretty much all I have for you. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have made other videos on law school internships, the bar exam, and so forth, so please check those out. Some of the links will be in the description with the video titles, so you get a gist of the whole law school experience. Thank you guys again for watching.